we got some of those guys in, early third or even late second, and try to get some reps out of them. And then before we knew it, we were down to, getting all our freshmen on the field. So, yeah, development's huge. And, the smaller school you're in, you're going to find that, classes are up and down. So next year it could look a little bit different. There could be some guys that could be starting this year, but they might go to a different position because, again, you're trying to get your best 11 on the field most nights.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing watching these classes, and some programs are at the next level and some are really struggling to even field a team, especially in the Class A, 1A realm. I think 8-man has changed that landscape a little bit just because you can take some of those, very small schools and they can still have a program and still put it together. But, last night I was at Pella Christian and they had a curtain raiser freshman game, and I think they counted 21 freshmen on that roster. And that wave is going to come through. Can you talk about the kids and how as a freshman your body might be of one type, and then the growth from freshman to sophomore, even sophomore to junior, how the landscape can change on your team?
Came down 2 weeks ago to speak to our team, and he was talking about the beauty of high school football is there could be a freshman that's 120 pounds and he gets to play football just like that senior who's 220 pounds. So, I think the big thing is that winning grows excitement. So the more numbers you get out, you can in a healthy fashion, you can host a young team with smaller kids to play things like freshman games and JV games, so that a kid who's 120 pounds, maybe he's 140 as a sophomore, he's not having a bad experience when he has to get thrown out there with seniors, especially at some of these small programs like you're saying. So we're pretty sophomore through senior heavy, so for the most part, I think we embrace that fashion. But at the same time, I'll be honest, we had a tough JV game last Monday at Lisbon, and they field a lot of just consistent numbers per class, and we're just kind of up and down from class to class. And sometimes that creates, I don't want to say an unhealthy experience, but just tough games where you're undermanned, where their JV was pretty stout, and our JV's developing. But that's why I think weight room year-round is huge, nutrition, and being heavily involved with multi-sport approaches so kids can develop in more than just a football fashion, but being a competitor year-round. That's the biggest thing, because I think track and field is such a big one because it's you against yourself most times. Sure, you're racing someone, but if you can run against round is huge.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think you can say the same thing about wrestling. It's you or the wrestler against another wrestler, and a lot of those techniques that you use on that wrestling mat are the same ones you use on the football field. So track, wrestling, kids, if you're watching this, Coach Weber says it, you should go out for both of those things, or just stay involved and stay competitive. Getting back to what you were talking about as far as the unbalance or the imbalance in the classes, freshman and sophomore, is that a product of the growing period that you guys are in right now? In my opinion, I think Pekin is on the rise. You guys are growing back to what Pekin once was, potentially, or is it just simply a numbers thing? You just don't have those numbers in those classes.
Well, it's you might have different builds. Like right now, we probably have a few more linemen in our freshman class than we do skill guys. Doesn't mean that our skill guys aren't productive. It's just I see, like right now, our senior class is very distributed evenly in terms of linemen and skill guys. Our junior class, we have a few linemen, but I feel like it's more skill guys. And then sophomores kind of a split, and freshmen, I feel like it's a few more linemen. So, that can, I don't want to say make it tougher, but it makes it more unique, and you have to find ways for your underclassmen to contribute, which is kind of the same in every program, but these thriving small schools and locations that have more numbers, they have sometimes they have the ability to kind of have a 50-50 blend of skill and line athletes in every class, again, which strengthens your fresh soft team or your JV team or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch these classes come through. You might be excited about one class, and then they come through, and you think, boy, we graduated a ton. How are we going to replace that? And then the next year they step up, and there's been so much growth. It doesn't feel like a college team or an NFL team where you're battling that quite as much.
I'll shout out the 2020 SK team. When we went to the Dome, the previous year we had Sam Minke and Dawson Bomber, who were just incredible linemen, and that was the year that we were supposed to make a run and do it all, and we came up short. I think we lost to Mediapolis in there. And then the next year, everybody's like, how are you going to replace these linemen? How's it all going to work out? And then all of a sudden, not other guys, but, Brady Dua, kind of the face of that team, carried SK to the Dome, put him on his shoulders, and no one thought we'd be there in 2020. So you just never know class to class, and, you never know the path you're going to get as well.
Yeah. I don't want to get too much into SK, but I think there's something similar that happened this last. But the fact of the matter was, for SK, there were a lot of those guys on last year's team that were juniors that didn't see the field as much as they wanted to, and I know the coaching staff wanted to get them out there. It was just that was the quality of the kids. But this year they're performing at a very high level, and I'm not surprised by it. And most other programs, those guys would have been starting. Do you guys have a situation going on like that at Pekin now where you are feeling confident next year going in you're going to be able to keep this momentum going?
Yeah, our numbers aren't quite as deep as theirs, but we were talking about that last night after the game. Is a guy like Landon Crow, who come from Sigourney, he's not a starter on offense right now. He probably should be. The position that he's at is a lot different than the positions of being split out, but that could change what we run on offense a little bit. Not an entire change, but again, you're trying to get those players all on the field, and if they have a skill set that's similar to the guy that's already out there, you're going to try to find ways to get them on there. So we do have skill guys that, I'll be honest, we have 4 running backs, and we're at a loss for words some week of who should be starting. So that's a good problem, but moving forward, it's definitely something that you're going to have to figure out how to get them on the field.
It is a big challenge, though, for a coach to be able to keep that engagement going, and how often do you come across a kid or maybe even a parent,
That's all right. Again, community buy-in and just being very transparent from the start, whether it's a parent meeting or as years go by. We try to make sure people know if they're involved with our program, we're a selfless program, and we're a sacrificial program where not every kid on our roster now wants to be part of it. Not every kid on our roster now wants to be part of it.
Yeah, as a parent, as a coach, I felt both of those sets of emotions, where you look at the kids and you're just not ready. It's nothing personal. You're just not ready. Or, you have this huge competition. Maybe this kid has just 1 ounce more of what it is that you think. The word of advice for the parents out there that might be frustrated or not, stay with it. When you get your opportunity, kids, go after it and show why you should be on that field. Do you agree with that, Coach?
Absolutely.
Okay. A couple of weeks left in this season. Why don't you tell us about who you got next week and then the following, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
We got that wonderful thing called homecoming this week. It's a great thing. It really is, but I sound like all the older coaches saying this, but the more you coach, the more you kind of gravitate to that side. I like it, but I told them last night there's just a lot of potential with homecoming in a positive fashion and a fashion that can be distracting, but our kids know the position. I think something that is big is people remember if you win your homecoming game, and my first couple of years we didn't win it, and I don't know if there was a huge sense.
Tonight's Daisy Dew Landscaping Player of the Game, we named Alton Williams the Player of the Game. Just some quick thoughts on him and maybe the defense overall.
Yeah, defense speaks for itself. We gave up 0 points. He's a big kid, and he's just a mean junkyard dog. I caught up with his dad for a minute last night, and he's one of those guys that has just worked so hard, and I didn't know he'd be as big as he is. I think his grandpa's like a 7-foot boxer from the 50s and 60s, and he's told me this story and showed me some pictures, and it's just, he might have returned.
Pekin Panther football games live on Steve Shetler Media this fall, and we'll be at homecoming for the next Friday's game. Hey, there we see on our screen right now the day
program. I'm going to start with Coach this morning because I know cross-country practice looks like for you guys.
Well, we take recovering pretty serious. So whenever, after a meet or anything like that, we go on easier runs, fast workouts for 5 to 7 miles usually, so it takes up a lot of time, but I mean, it's whatever it takes to get better, I guess.
Yeah, I can sympathize with your comment on taking recovery seriously. As it relates to running, I would say that you guys are in the enjoy running 5 to 7 miles. Is that a fair statement?
I'd say probably.
Okay, so what makes you so different that
It's just, I don't know, been doing it for so long. It's just like doing hard things makes me enjoy life better, I guess. So do hard things, I guess.
Gotcha. Is that something that you had from the get-go? So you're a toddler, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to take off running, and I've never stopped, I've never looked back.
Probably not.
Okay, how about the Yates twins? And why don't you guys actually discern for our viewers which one is Addie and which one is Ellie?
Okay. I'm Addie, and that one's Ellie. And we
I
definitely...
knew that, by the way.
Yeah. We definitely did not...
Fascinating to me because I feel like I've been seeing one of the two of you running around Sigourney every... What was the bug? I can't get
Well-
through this, Cody, without a Forrest Gump reference.
One of the things that... And we ended up breaking our 4x8 school record, and then we really, in 8th grade, we started taking it pretty serious.
Success breeds success. That's exciting,
Yeah.
yeah. So, Cody, coach, in the barn, exceptional cross-country runners.
I think with running, consistency is always a big thing. I think it's, for example, last meet we had almost a whole minute PR that you improved in a year's time, which is huge. Like, not a lot of people can make that much grounds in a year's time. So it's fun to see, and I know they've had similar experiences too, where it's just keep chunking away at time, and it's exciting. Yeah, some meets don't go as well as you want, and you kind of go back to the drawing board and you figure out what to do next. So it's just that consistency and drive to do more. So
It's on here. So for our viewers that tune in for football, can you describe what the meant? Why don't you tell us what that looks like, Coach?
yeah, so boys will have a race, and then the girls will have a race, and then the high schoolers will have theirs too. Junior high, it's anywhere from 1 mile to 2 miles. There's anywhere from, I think our smallest meet had probably close to 30 kids, upwards of pushing 100 for junior high, for girls or boys. When it comes to the girls or boys high school, they're running a 5K, which to them 3 miles really isn't a whole lot. To most people in the world, it's quite a bit. But a 3.1 mile race, parents I think are more excited than the kids running the races sometimes. But it's a pretty cool event where you get to watch them and to see how supportive other run.
Bottom to top, you've got a what do you say, a 5K?
Mhm.
So just over 3 miles. What kind of times are we turning in here? What like a 7-minute mile, 6-minute mile, something like that?
I would say Troy managed on grass. It was set a few hills. The girls here, you guys were under 7 minutes this last meet too. You're probably 640, 650 somewhere miles. Their times used to be a lot similar to the boys. So yeah, we run some pretty fast times really when it comes down to it. So yep.
If I could break 10 minutes, I'd be happy with that, Steve. So were you a cross country-er, Steve?
Throughout my school and most of my adult life, I avoided running like the plague. But for some reason, my wife and I picked it up here at about 12 years ago, and we actually ended up running several half marathons. Looking at me now, you wouldn't guess that. But a few pounds ago, we actually ran several 5Ks and several half marathons. So
There you go. Fun
Let me
fact
pat myself on the back.
Fun fact about Steve Shetler. Coach, do you run with the kids while practice is going on?
Yeah, I wouldn't say every day or every practice, and it's with different ones each time, just depending on how I'm feeling. Because age is one of those curses that just makes you slow. But yeah, it's fun. I like to try to push them, and I don't know. I like to call it encouragement, but always kind of like, hey, if you can go faster, you can go slower, or something to that extent. So it's pretty fun to do. So
I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to go all out, what could you finish a 5K in?
oh man.